What's up, everybody? It's Eat a Profit here to do another video. This video is going to be called Jake Paul is absolutely right. The UFC needs to pay its fighters more money. And y'all know, for those of y'all who watch my UFC videos, y'all know that I just did a video not that long ago called Bryce Mitchell only made $45,000. I forget which card it was, and I had what the fuck. Because I couldn't believe that Bryce Mitchell only made $45,000 to show and $45,000 to win, a total of $90,000 for that fight. And then he offered to give up half of it. And then I did another video, the biggest winners and losers at UFC London. And in that video, man, I took Paddy Pimblett to task for asking for more money. I can't remember the guy who, I can't think of the guy's name who called him out. But, he turned the fight down saying Dana White had to pay him more money, give him more zeros. And I took him to task for that. So I got to apologize not only to everybody who watched that video, but I got to apologize to Paddy Pimblett because I was wrong. And he was absolutely correct. He should get more money for that fight. He shouldn't. Paddy Pimblett made $12,000 to show and $12,000 to win for his last fight, a total of $24,000. So if Paddy Pimblett fought 3 times in 1 year and won all 3 of his fights, he would make a total of $72,000. Now keep in mind, these fighters got to pay trainers, they got to pay managers, they got to pay for training facilities, they got to pay for expensive diets, they got to pay for supplements, they got to pay for all this stuff. Unless they're getting like really, really sponsored, they got to pay for this stuff. So if he fought 3 times, he would make $72,000. Think about that. Yo, I work a 9 to 5, a regular 9 to 5. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not rich by any means, but I make more than what Paddy Pimblett would make if he fought 3 times in a year and won all 3 of his fights. You know what I'm saying? Which means if I make more than him, then that means I probably make more than all of the fighters at the low end of the UFC. And I got a big problem with that. Now, let me go to Jake Paul, who I agree 100% with his message. I don't agree, however, with how he's decided to act on the UFC fighter's behalf by challenging Dana White in the public forum on social media every chance he gets. I don't think that's going to help the UFC fighters at all. You know what I'm saying? I don't think that's going to help them. One thing that might help the fighters, and I've alluded to this in some of my other UFC videos, is that the UFC fighters need better management. Way better management than what they have. You know what I'm saying? I look at all these fighters who got a problem with pay and take their issues to social media. Right off the bat, their managers should be telling them, don't do that. Don't make this shit public with Dana White. You won't win that fight. You'll lose. You won't win. So, maybe somebody like Jake Paul, hey, shit, if somebody put the money behind me, I would love to have my own management company where I manage these UFC fighters. I'll negotiate for them. I'll tell them things they need to do to progress their career, things not to do. As I've mentioned several times, a lot of fighters don't make use of that time they have after they want to fight. A lot of the fighters don't call anybody out. They don't know what to say. The only thing they can think of is to thank sponsors that nobody gives a shit about. You know what I'm saying? A lot of fighters don't make good use of that time that they get. And, that's one thing as a man, being a management company, I would definitely help them out with, and other things I see. All of this, these fighters, talking shit about other fighters on Twitter. Man, I ain't gonna lie. As entertaining as it is, I read them. I read the articles. I read the message boards. I read all that shit. But in the long run, it's not good for UFC fighters to be bashing other UFC fighters. And half the time, they in weight classes where they're not even ever going to be able to compete against each other. It makes no sense. It's stupid. But anyway, back to the fighter pay. The fighters in the UFC are not being paid like professional athletes. They absolutely are not. And it needs to be fixed. Patty Pimblett making $12,000. That's the same fighter pay that the UFC was paying their fighters 10 years ago. Go look this shit up. 10 years ago. That's how they was paying their fighters. Now keep in mind, the UFC has been sold for $4 billion. They've made all of this revenue. They have not shared any of their revenue with their fighters, and that's wrong. It needs to be fixed. What I feel that the UFC needs to do is to institute a $50,000 minimum pay scale for all of their fighters. Meaning, if you're the very first fighter on the card and you're opening up the card, you should be making at least $50,000 a show and $50,000 a win. That should be the minimum for all of the UFC fighters in the UFC. Now, that's not even a lot of money, to be honest. That don't even compare to the other major sports organizations. You know what I'm saying? The minimum is much higher than that. But I'm saying at least if it was at $50,000, Bryce Mitchell would have made more money right off the bat. Patty Pimblett would have made more money right off the bat. Everybody underneath the Patty Pimblett would have made more money right off the bat. And that's how, if you're a professional fighter in the UFC, you should not have to have a second job. You should not have to rely on sponsors just to eat your next meal. You know what I'm saying? That shit is crazy. I can't believe the UFC is getting away with that. And don't get me wrong, this is not a me versus the UFC thing. Because I love the UFC. I love Dana White. I love all the people that make the UFC happen for us fans. But keeping it real, they got to do better with how they're paying their fighters. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. They got to do a better job. $12,000, man, who the fuck can survive on that? Who can survive on that? You know what I'm saying? It's crazy. It don't make no sense. I just don't see how they've been getting away with it. And like I said, Jake Paul is right. And other people who have been talking about fighter pay are absolutely correct. It needs to change. It needs to change. Like I said, a good start would be that $50,000 minimum. In my opinion, that's where they need to start at. And they need to just, they need to pay their fighters better. It's just, and honestly, the people who are representing these fighters, their management, need to negotiate better on behalf of their fighters. Because keep in mind, the reason why Patty Pimblett is probably only making $12,000 is because somebody negotiated that salary for him. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure he didn't negotiate that himself. So, man, some shit got to change. Really got to change. Because I just don't see how it can keep going on like this. I don't see how they can keep getting away with it. And before it becomes an issue where the UFC ends up getting, messed up, fix this shit now. It won't hurt them to pay these fighters more money than what they're paying them. The little bit of thousands I'm talking about, for some fighters, it should probably be way more than that. You know what I'm saying? But, on the low end, I'm not saying you got to come in making $5 million, but you should at least be able, to buy a house and a car, and take care of, your other obligations to the people helping you further your career. That's all I'm saying. It's frustrating. Like I said, man, I had no idea that Patty Pimblett only made $12,000 for his last fight. So if you think about that, if somebody as popular as Patty Pimblett is only making $12,000 a fight, I guarantee their guys probably only making $5,000 a fight, maybe less than that. You know what I'm saying? And I don't even understand how they can afford to fight under these circumstances. I don't see it. It's outrageous. It's like I said, man, I love the UFC, but they got to fix this shit. They got to fix this fighter pay. They got to fix it. Hey, Jake Paul, if you ever want to get with me, hit me up. I doubt you'll ever see this video, but if somehow this happened to get to you and you want to really help these fighters, let's start a management company and start negotiating, on behalf of these fighters with the UFC for much higher fighter pay, much higher pay, for the fighters. Let's do that. I think that'll be much more helpful than getting into a pissing contest with Dana White. I personally would never, ever get into a pissing contest with Dana White, no matter what the issue is, just because Dana White is one of my heroes. I've been watching this guy for a long, long time. You know, and I wouldn't even be making this video if it wasn't for Dana White. So I got a lot of respect for him. And that ain't the way, I feel is gonna help out the fighters, fighting with him. But I do think I can communicate with him effectively enough to help him see the value of some of these fighters. You know what I mean? And there's no way. And when y'all see these fucking fighters wanting to go into the WWE and going into BKFC and going to Bellator, and all, it's because the UFC is not paying no money. And that's why this is happening. That's why these fighters want to do every fucking thing but fight in the UFC, because there's no money in the UFC. And that's just outrageous. That has to be fixed. All right, so I done beat this fucking horse enough. I think y'all get the point. UFC got to pay their fighters more money, period. It just ain't even no fucking ifs, ands, or buts. It's no middle ground. They got to do it. They got to pay their fighters more money, period. Everybody, please like the video. Please subscribe to the channel. Please share the video if you're so inclined. Please leave your thoughts and comments. Do you agree? Am I the only one who feels like this? Or am I and Jake Paul the only ones who feel like this? Who feel like the UFC fighters are getting terribly shortchanged in their salaries? Leave a comment. Anyway, thank y'all for watching the video. I love y'all. Everybody stay safe, stay healthy, stay strong. Peace.